Most people think that their marketing problem is a lack of time, content, or consistency. And it is really tempting to assume your marketing just needs more or better execution, more posting, more emails, better visuals, hiring somebody to help you get through everything. But what if there was a better way to approach it? Last episode, we talked about messaging, trends that are out of style, and why just posting more isn't the right move. So today, let's talk about diagnosing what's actually missing and looking at your marketing through a strategic lens. Let's get into it. By the way, before I jump into the topic of this episode, I just want to say this is episode 50, which is so crazy. When I started podcasting, I remember asking my business coach if I could just have my blog and read it out loud because I was so much more comfortable writing than I am in speaking. And that's still true. Like when I record these podcasts, I do a lot of writing before I record them so that I can get straight on what I actually want to say. But it's crazy that it's been 50 episodes. We're going on a year. So I just want to say thank you. If you've been listening this whole time, if you're new, welcome. It's been so fun to record this podcast and to connect with all of you. And I'm super excited every time somebody replies to one of my podcast emails about how much they loved an episode. So thanks again. And let's dive into the actual episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Cozypreneur podcast. If this is your first time listening, Cozypreneur is all about helping you make money and work with the dreamiest of clients. So grab your beverage, get your cozy socks on, and let's dive in. When you're thinking about your content marketing plan, a lot of the times I hear, I just need to be more consistent. I just need to get on LinkedIn. I just need to get on Instagram. I just need to hire some support, right? And what I'm hearing is a lot of I needs or I shoulds, right? And a lot of this like really negative self-talk of like, hey, you're basically telling yourself like, I'm not doing enough. And a lot of this comes from really bad advice, right? And the bad advice is that a lot of the marketing advice that you see, especially on Instagram, is really meant for like very large scalable businesses. And a lot of the times, you are not, as a service business owner, going to infinitely scale your business. Something like a SaaS or a software as a service is going to be easily scalable. And that would make sense that they need like a big ad budget, right? They're trying to reach thousands and thousands of people. But for a lot of us, we don't want thousands and thousands of clients, right? You probably want like a few clients a month, or if you have a membership, maybe like a few hundred clients. But a lot of the people that I work with don't work with people on this huge scalable scale. But a lot of the advice that is out there is for people who want these like huge companies with hundreds of thousands of customers. And the thing with that is those big companies have 7-figure teams, right? Or 6-figure teams, which looks like a social media manager, an email marketer, a head of marketing, right? Like there are entire teams that do this work. And so you as a small business owner, maybe you have a small team, maybe it's just you trying to keep up with the strategies and tactics that these 7-figure or like big scalable businesses are doing. It's just going to keep you stressed. It's going to keep you comparing, and it's going to feel like you're always behind and you're never actually hitting your goals because you're trying to do the work of an entire team. And just to like give you some perspective, like I am working on a website rebrand right now for a big corporate client, and there's a whole team working together. So I'm working on all of the copy and the brand messaging. There is a visual branding designer who's working on all of the visuals, and her and I work really closely together to make sure that everything looks good, everything's aligned. And like if she had to change a word in design, that it still works with the message and it's not going crazy, right? Then you have your website designer and your photographer. So this is a brand new website for a corporate business, right? That has lots of staff. and we still need 4 people, right? And so when you're looking at these tactics that people are telling you are like the right thing to do to hit 40K months, 50K months, that's not realistic for most people. You cannot do that amount of work. Like, it's just not realistic, right? And so what can you do as a small business owner is do less, right? You're going to do less, but you're going to do less better. You're going to be intentional about it, because doing everything is not sustainable. And it's hard, right? Because you'll be scrolling social media, or you open your inbox and people are like, this is a solution you need. You need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And part of what you actually need is discernment, right? To figure out whether or not that is the right strategy for you. Will that work in your business? So one example, and I know I've talked about this in so many episodes of leaving social media, is before I left social media, so about a year ago, I ended up hiring a social media virtual assistant because I was getting really burnt out on content. But in my head, I thought I had to create content. I thought that I needed to be posting on Instagram several times a week, or I wouldn't be making money. And so I ended up spending money that I didn't really need to be spending because I thought I had to do it. So I hired somebody to help me do it. And I'm looking back at that now and say, wait, what if I didn't have that pressure that I had to be on Instagram? What if I actually had used that time when Instagram started burning me out and invested more in those foundational marketing pieces, right? What if I had started the podcast earlier? And, I can what if all I want, but like my whole point in this, and I know I said this in the last episode, is really this idea of like, there are no rules about how you have to market your business. And somebody might tell you that you have to do it in a certain way, but they're wrong. You don't have to do it in a certain way. You just need to be very intentional, right? You have to get in front of new people. You have to build business relationships. You have to nurture those relationships, right? You have to build trust, and then you have to sell, right? Those are the 3 pieces that you need. And I think that what's actually missing is not this idea of like, you're not doing enough, but instead, how clear are you being with what you actually help people with? And how are you positioning your offer so it's differentiated from somebody else who is in your niche, right? These are pieces that are really going to hone in your strategy. So you're not just thinking about showing up more, and instead you're flipping it. So you're really like, okay, so if I'm going to show up in these specific ways, how can I be more intentional and strategic about the work that I'm doing there, about the way that I'm showing up? So signs that your messaging needs a little bit of TLC is if you are constantly changing your message, if you are throwing spaghetti at a wall, you don't know what to actually say to position yourself in a way that makes you stand out. So some of the signs that your message needs a little bit of TLC is constantly changing your message over and over and over again, and just like completely trying something out from left field because maybe you tried something for a week or 2, it didn't work, so you're trying something else. But that consistency piece is actually important. So really kind of finding what is the message, what is your positioning, how do you convey your value, and then really sticking with that message for a little while, so that people can really build trust. People can recognize what you do. They understand how you can help them. I think another one that is a sign your message needs some TLC is having a really vague ideal client. I think not knowing who you're talking to can make it really hard to stand out and position yourself. So to give an example, I had a client earlier this year that they were doing all of the right things. They were making content. They were doing all of the right things, but they weren't making sales because their messaging was so vague. They were speaking to an ideal client, but it wasn't really specific. And so what I did is we got super specific about their ideal client and about where they're showing up. And once we did that, their product started selling and they got a big contract to supply their product in over 50 stores. And that's like the kind of transformation a simple tweak in messaging can do. And like, I don't want to say like, oh, it was so easy. It was just a simple tweak. Like, no, we had to recreate a bunch of stuff, right? There was a lot of marketing materials that were outdated now that we got more focused, but the changes were really strategic and purposeful. And it wasn't just like, let's pour out a bunch of content to get in front of more people to sell this thing. It was like, hey, let's pause, see who actually needs to hear this message and what is the message that we're actually saying. So some questions to help you assess your messaging and your strategy is, one, do you know what your big promise is? So what is the thing that you help people with? And at a core level, your big promise should be very similar across offers, right? So like for me, I help people with strategic messaging and high converting copy. Whether it's the copy studio or the membership, that big promise is the same. The way that I deliver the service and the support is different, but the big promise stays the same across my brand, which allows me to build my reputation around this. It allows my clients to trust me with this, right? And it allows me to really hone in my expertise, right? Because I'm doing the same thing now for 3 years and I'm going to keep doing the same thing. And that's why my clients know that like I'm a trusted source for copywriting. Another thing to think about is there consistency in your message? So your emails, your podcasts, your social media, your sales pages, are they talking about the same kind of things? And that's just another piece that's like really important for trust building with your audience, because you want them to feel like no matter where they are seeing you, it's the same message, right? That's going to build more trust. Then I think really looking at your business and seeing like, where are leads actually coming from? The other thing to think about is like, where are your leads actually coming from? Where are you actually making money? And is there space to lean into that more? And are there places where it's not really worth your time, right? And I've been hearing this so much about Instagram where people are like, I'm posting and I'm not getting any sort of return. And it's because the market is changing and people are getting more skeptical and people are more aware of, scammy business practices. But yes, it's impacting everybody, right? And also the economy and the timeline, right? There's a lot of factors going into play right now when it comes to strategy. So really being cognizant of all of that. I think another thing too is like, because the world is so weird right now, I'm not saying like talk about politics, but acknowledge the weirdness, right? Like acknowledge that people are not making money right now, like across the board, even very successful business owners. Everybody is in survival mode. It's about sustaining. It's not about growing. So thinking about, what is your time capacity? Where are you showing up? How can you show up strategically and intentionally? So all of this being said, you don't need a giant rebrand. You don't need to post 5 times a day. You just need to understand what your message is doing, how you're positioning yourself, and really thinking about you and your time capacity and what's going to work for you, and not trying to copy somebody else because you think that's what you should do. So if this is something that you need help with, get on the email list. I have some consulting offers open this fall. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for listening. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate and leave a review on your preferred listening platform. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe for weekly episodes about how to make money and work with the dreamiest of clients without having to get dressed in the morning. Make sure to check out the show notes down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.